I had a deal with Brock Purdy yesterday, and we did this thing with Toyota, and we did this shoot. But I was excited to get to talk to him because I've never talked to him. And one of the things I asked him was just off the camera. I said, "Hey, what do you think with quarterbacks that I won't say that we miss, but like what's one thing that we don't talk about that you think deserves to be talked about the position?" And he gave a fascinating answer. He said, "I just think it's important that you can inspire your teammates." And I thought, huh. Like I've never like I've heard like people say like, "Oh, your leadership and your competitiveness." Like I don't know that I've heard inspiration like is that's never been in any scouting form I've ever filled out when I was scouting the position back in the day. It's like, is this guy inspire his teammates? But I thought, you come to think of it, like you're right. That is something that we should pay more attention to. And I think Herbert inspires his teammates not with words but in deeds, just with how tough he is.
That is Daniel Jeremiah on Y. I didn't know I had that little touch on the end on Y Option, which is my buddy Yogi Roth's podcast. Yogi is my broadcast partner on Big Ten Network this last year for college football and is awesome. And the full link, if you're watching on YouTube or listening to the podcast, to that conversation is down in the description. But I thought it was really interesting insight from DJ, Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, one of the foremost NFL draft, maybe the foremost NFL draft expert. And I love how he casually goes, like, forgets for a second. I had this deal with Brock Purdy, Toyota commercial. Like, so, attaboy, DJ. DJ, big Padre fan too, and an awesome guy. Middlecoff introduced me to him years ago, and just great. Anyway, interesting insight, interesting answer from Brock Purdy. Not a Brock Purdy interview answer, not a Brock Purdy with the bright lights on answer. And as you heard at the end, DJ does the Chargers. So he was talking a little bit about Justin Herbert and how he sees Herbert every day. He travels with the team. He's at the facility and he sees what Herbert physically goes through and sees how he affects his teammates. And I think it's interesting again. I mean, I don't think Brock is connecting himself back when he says that to the fact that he was the 262nd pick. It's available at heyguy.co. Black sold out. But his whole story is, and I say this every 6 months, I remember that, maybe every 3 months, that for all of the analysis on Brock, which I do, which you do, which everybody does, he still is beating some of the longest odds that have ever been beaten by anybody in sports, and thriving while doing it, and is likely about to get a big contract. And so his story in and of itself is an inspiring one. I'd be curious to ask Purdy, like, to follow up with him. Like, is it inspiring because of that? Because you were the 262nd pick? Is that how you're inspiring? Or is it something more than that? And my guess would be that it's something more than that. And, it's another trait that it's just the kind of thing that you think maybe you could capture in the draft. You do the background, and all these teams are going to do the background on Shador and Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. And we hear he's a good guy and this and that and the other. I mean, there are plenty of relationships that last 2 years and then break up, and the 3 years and then break up, and 4 years and 5 years and 6 and on and on and on and on and on. It takes a long time to really know somebody. And that's part of what makes the draft evaluation really hard. It's like, oh, these guys love them. Like 9 people who are with them for 24 months love them. Like, that's pretty good. That's good odds. It's probably going to be great. But you just never know until you get around a guy. And here's another one of Purdy's sort of invisible skills is maturity. And I think the tightrope that he is always walking, that any quarterback is walking, but especially when you think like, I'm an inspirational guy, is staying within a structure and still finding ways to inspire. I think when we think about quarterbacks inspiring, we don't think about how they lead in the locker room with their actions. They're always 10 minutes early, or the weight room. We think about like you running around and elevating your team by making some off-script play. And I think what's been really interesting to learn about Purdy watching his career is that he is, as much as any quarterback right now, thriving within structure while also being a guy that's got a little bit of a wild streak buried deep within him. Like, he still wants to make kind of crazy plays. And in order to do that, in order to spin blind away from pressure successfully multiple times, then throw across your body, you have to be confident. In order to know when to do it, when not to do it, you have to be mature. And the reality is that most people, you just don't have the time to find that balance. How many times have you thought, like, man, if I had been 23, just like, I remember thinking this, like, you're a couple years out of high school, out of college, maybe you're in college playing intramural hoops. You're like, God, if I had just been a little more mature, I would have been such a better high school basketball player. But that's the thing with football, is unlike most of our careers, you run out of time. By the time you're mature enough to have fully kind of, I don't know, whatever, that self-actualized probably isn't the right, but once you've reached peak mental maturity, understanding, processing, your body can't maximize it. It's too late. So like watching a guy like Justin Verlander is incredible. Been doing it for 20 years. But for most guys, it's like you're not going to fully figure everything out until you're 30. But you're 2 years past your physical, your body might be broken down. You might be out of the league by then. So can you have the mature attitude about work, about leadership, about inspiration? Can you process fast enough when you're young, when people are still going to give you a chance? You see it with backup quarterbacks all the time. It's rare that you really get the chance. Franchise really gives you the shot once you're old to prove that you can be the guy every day. And, in order to get that shot, you got to prove it young. And so that's a fascinating insight. For Purdy to think that way, I think I'm around a lot of quarterback. Yogi's actually a great example of this, because Yogi is part of the Elite 11 thing every year. He's been doing it for years. And for those of you who don't know Elite 11, it's an elite high school quarterback competition. And so when I do college football games with Yogi, we travel around and he knows all the quarterbacks, the starters, the backups, the third stringers. These Big Ten schools, like the third string guy is a 4 or 5-star, highly recruited quarterback. And Yogi knows them all, and he has great relationships with all of them because of that experience. And one thing you see, it's really everybody wants to be a quarterback, because everybody wants to be, or at least thinks they want to be, the guy, the man in the middle of the arena who everybody else looks to, who you can lead, who turns to you for inspiration. But authentically being that person is a different thing. I think you see it a lot if you watch, especially in sports, like players get interviewed. Often they're just mimicking because they're inexperienced, and you just want to, I'm just going to, I'll just mimic what I see on TV. And I just do that, the classic fake it till you make it. I just do that until I'm comfortable being me in front of an interview situation. And I think probably no position is mimicked, copied, more than that's what a franchise quarterback looks like. That's how a franchise quarterback talks. That's how a franchise quarterback acts. That's how a franchise quarterback moves. And all that stuff's well and good on the outside. We, on the outside, get glimpses of guys. And so it takes a long time to figure out who's really that dude and who isn't. But a locker room can figure it out in 2 weeks, immediately, on one interaction, on 2 interactions, on 3 interactions. And so when I hear DJ say that about Brock Purdy, for Brock to comfortably feel that way means, he's been in that locker room now several years. He has established that is authentically who he is. And they're going to need it. Now, at the end of the day, inspiration, we follow you because you produce on the field. And that's the ultimate. And he has done that. And he's got to keep doing it to keep it rolling. But I thought it was interesting that DJ said that he's never heard a quarterback give him that answer, because all these guys have been, by the time they get to the combine, they've all been coached up by their agents about how to do interviews with the scouts, with the GMs, with the coaches, how to say things they'll love. We're going to put on a suit. Everyone's going to be so impressed. And DJ's been in a lot of those meetings. He's talked to a ton of people. He was a scout and talks to a ton of prospects now and coaches. And so he's got I would imagine he's got an excellent bullshit detector when it comes to hearing what players have to say. And I think those of us who have watched Brock for a while, whatever your opinion on, like, is he a top 5 quarterback? Is he not worth paying? Whatever he is in the middle. I think the stuff he is with his teammates is pretty authentic.